When gas prices.
I think the first 2 seconds of all of my streams are me logging into the stream and you hearing me mute the whatever ad is playing at first. I believe we're tweeted. I believe we're live. Hopefully all of the audio is working.
It does look like we are indeed live.
Hey, Timson. Slash.
I will, let's see, I'll retweet this and also drop it in our Discord.
Hey, what's up, everybody? A lot of awesome people joining right now.
Oh, yeah, already got quite a few people here.
So, what I wanted to do today was very simply mess with some new N64 products. One that I bought by accident, which is why you will see this says, I've just politely adjusted it to cloning is not cool. And we'll go over that in a second. But of course, the first person I thought of when it came to N64 is obviously you, Mark. So I wanted you to join me. But I figured we'd try some new hardware, play a game or two, and then kind of whenever we got to do, whenever we're gonna do something else, we'll call it.
Cool. So, I mean, you know, I I'm often so much out of the loop lately. I've been doing a bad job of paying attention. So these are probably things that I don't know much about yet. So I will be learning too.
Yeah, one of them, I can't remember if I'm allowed to. You know what? Let me just message somebody. No, I already got permission. I think I got permission. I don't think I'm outing anything, but we'll see. We'll see. But I'm gonna do something that I always forget to do before we start. I am just gonna make sure that the N64 is actually working.
Looks like it is.
Controller's working, sound, video. Okay. That's just that's like I know pro modders that at least once a year that will happen to. Well, they'll get something in and they'll be doing 4 or 5 mods that day. And then they'll just say, "All right, well, let me just jump into the mod number 5 and forget to test the console." And then all of a sudden they're like, "Well, we got to pat, all back together. How come it's not working?" And it never worked in the first place. Also, I'm not really sure if this is the proper way to do this, but when I take these out, this is how I've always done it. Is that how you do it?
Oh,
It's so much harder to do on camera. Hold on. There we go.
I never considered that before. Actually, I think I have in the other room the official tool for doing that. Let me go grab it. One sec.
That's funny. Marcus, I tease N64 all the time, but I like the CDI. So who am I to talk?
Yeah, I actually have right here. It's even got the N64 logo engraved on it. This actually comes with the expansion pack.
I never had a complete in-box expansion pack.
Yeah, yeah.
Lily said that's how they take the batteries out of every remote control. Yeah.
So
that's pretty neat.
Yeah, there is an official tool for it. I actually, I have my expansion pack sitting right here. Normally, it would be in the system, of course. But I removed it just a few weeks ago because I was playing Space Station Silicon Valley, which is, as far as I know, might be the only game that actually has incompatibilities with the expansion pack.
That's one of the many reasons why I keep an original official one around too, just in case you want to test that one thing.
Yep. The jumper. I mean, as far as I know, it's just it's like a Terminator. It ends the RAM bus.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything though. It doesn't add anything. But you can't run the system without it. but um, I took it out because yeah, apparently the game will freeze periodically if you don't. And I was like actually like legitimately like starting to play through that game like for you know just for fun for my own backlog purposes. And yeah, so I
Which game was that again?
Space Station Silicon Valley. It's from DMA Design, who became Rockstar North, that makes GTA.
Oh, very
They
cool.
actually did at least two N64 games. They're really interesting. You can kind of see some of the beginnings of the DNA of what became Grand Theft Auto. The one that I had played back in the day was Body Harvest, which is kind of this like alien bug invasion sort of shooting game. But what's really interesting about it is that the levels are like absolutely massive, and there are tons and tons of different vehicles that you can get in and drive, including like hovercrafts and flying vehicles as well. And obviously, that kind of was almost a sort of a prototype for what became some of like the 3D GTA games,
That's pretty
which
cool.
which I don't really have a lot of experience with GTA myself, but yeah. And then Space Station Silicon Valley is this game where you're like you're like this you're this robot that mostly got destroyed, and you just are this little microchip, but you can get inside all of these like robotic animals that are based on like real world animals, and you like take control of them, and you like have different abilities. So it's kind of a similar concept to like jumping between different vehicles and stuff. Um, so yeah.
Daniel, is there a quality aftermarket N64 power supply? Stick around. We'll find out.
I'm curious if anyone here in the chat um has an answer to this question. This is something I've been trying to well, I haven't been trying super hard to figure this out. But just before the stream, I was going to actually, funny enough, going over the N64 portion of the script that Corey is about to finish a video for the. We're about to release a video for the first time in many months. We have taken an inadvertent hiatus, um, and I I have not found an N64 game. Oh, so what's that little thing you got modded down there?
That is the Voltar board,
Ah.
and it's not his latest model, but it is equal in quality to his latest model. And as far as I know, that's just about the only mod done on this one. And by the way, this whole trick, real quick, this whole trick of leaving all of these screws in and only doing the outer, the cartridge, and these, and over here, I never knew that was possible. I used to always take everyone off, but
Oh, yeah.
Marshall actually taught me that before he joined a cult and moved away. So I'm not really. I'm kidding, by the way. He dropped off the planet. I don't know if he joined a cult or not, but I used to always take every single one out. So I just thought
I
that was a
know.
neat
Well,
trick I
that
wanted to share.
I've actually never like gone down to the N64 board before, because every time I open it up, I'm just like or the first time I opened it up, like I was like, oh hey, I'm going to get some B-roll shots of the N64 inside. And I opened it up and saw like the bazillion screws on the heatsink. I'm just like, nope, closing this back up.
And I gotta just repeat a couple times in the stream. I bought this before I knew it was from Bitfucks. I had no idea
Oh.
this was a clone. That's why I wrote on it. Cloning is not cool. This is what I've heard is a meh quality shell, but they cloned Yoi's box, so it looks like it's one of the ones that you get from Muramasa,
Ah.
but and which is 100% cloning, even if it's just the box. In fact, cloning the box and the logo is actually more fightable in court than anything else, because there's absolutely no denying that it's stolen. There's just
Ah.
zero way to show that it's not. So yeah, that Bitfunks guy might be in some trouble at some point soon. Hopefully, if I have anything to do with it. But yeah, so it's I just want to continue to over and over throughout the stream talk about how this is not the one that I've been recommending. This is not the one with a Kickstarter. This is the clone that I already paid for, and the only thing I hate more than supporting clones is wasting money. So I'm putting this sucker on and giving this one to a friend. But do not support cloners. Let's check the
Well,
chat
it
real
certainly
quick. A lot
does
of
look
cool
like an
people in here.
N64 shell, though.
It does.
Well, I was going to ask the chat, though, if anyone knows of a game where you can actually copy from controller pack to controller pack, copy saves, without using like a PC, like just the console itself. Like if you hold the start button when booting up controller pack compatible games, they all have their own kind of unique interface for managing them. You can delete them, but I don't know if any actual official games let you copy from pack to pack. Okay, so some people were saying the Game Shark lets you do that. I'm going to tell Corey that right now so I don't forget. Some people in Bob's chat are saying that the Game Shark may be the only. Well, of course, it's probably not the only way because now you can use everdrives, but
So the only thing I was just looking at, and this will apply to the new Kickstarter shell that is not a clone, that should be coming out soon. I usually, in a case like this, would just take the plastic or take the metal shield off, because it really is just for RF. But with everything connected as one giant heatsink, I was kind of wondering, is it better to just leave it off? Except you don't really see much. So unless your N64 is up on a glass table where you could see underneath it, I think I'm just going to leave this in. But I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I think it's really whatever you prefer. As long as you leave this on, you cannot take this off. That's kind of the problem with it, because that is the heatsink. So that would be very bad.
Oh, dang. Gianvalo says there is at least one official game. Do you know which one that is?
There's at least one what?
At least one official game that apparently has a copy function.
Anybody that's ever taken apart an N64, how many times have you gotten it all back together before you realize you left the light pipe out?
Speaking of N64, I actually just bought these from Laser Bear. I haven't gotten around to actually opening my systems to put them in yet, but fortunately, this doesn't require you to go beneath the heatsink. But I finally actually got some region-free trays for the N64. You'd think that's something I would have done like a really long time ago. But what I've always done for import games is I just bought like a bunch of, really, really cheap sports games in good condition and just swap the back plates to be able to put import games into an American console.
That's a neat idea.
The thing I like about that in theory is I could put in any N64, right? So it doesn't matter. Any American one at least. Like it doesn't matter if the system has been modded to support import games. I can put it in. I could take it to a friend's house and put in that cartridge. But I went ahead and got those region-free trays because I more recently imported. In fact. The stack is right here. I have a bunch of games sitting next to me that I haven't gotten around to. Yeah. Here we go. I have a bunch of games sitting on this table next to me that I've bought recently. Most of them were not very expensive at all. But yeah, I need to get around to cleaning these. But yeah, these are all import N64 games. So I was like, you know what? I am not going to convert all of these with American backplates.
Well, I think the thing from Greg is better because it's no cut. So you save your old one and no harm, no foul.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, there's no cut doing it the way I do it either, because I'm just
No, but you have to
unscrewing
screw and
the bits.
unscrew a whole
But
bunch of stuff.
yeah, I mean, can you really even? Uh, can you really? I was under the impression that there wasn't really a good way to cut the N64 to do region free without like a total replacement tray. Like, I mean, Super Nintendo, of course, you just wiggle the tabs out, but
No, yeah,
uh,
you would really need Greg's tray. And
yeah.
I don't even like wiggling the tabs out, to be honest with you. I don't know why. It's dumb. There's zero reason to not want to do it. I
Well, it's
completely
just
admit.
you've gotten so hardcore on the no cut bandwagon. Like it didn't used to really be possible though. Like so many mods, you had to do a cut in some way. But it seems like most mods these days, people have at least come up with a way that you could install it without cutting.
Yeah. All right, so here's what I'm not understanding here, and here's once again, I know I have kind of a vendetta against these thieves, but in all honesty, this is why you don't buy clones, right? So this is very neat. It's a cool idea. You put this here. Uh, I guess that scoots down on top, maybe. Maybe that goes there and that goes there. But where is the spring and where are the screws to screw it down? So does that mean I still need to disassemble the original one and keep? What happens if your original cartridge tray is broke? I mean, these are the little details on why you don't buy from cloners. Not only, besides the fact that they steal from people that work hard to make this stuff right. So, how am I? How do I
You
screw these down? And where are the springs for it? So I guess I do have to take the ones out of the original. That's
you got
annoying.
a 2 pound super chat from Raw Talent Art
Oh, thank you so
saying
much. I appreciate that. These super chats are what would absolutely keep this stuff going. So any support helps. And we're just trying out new stuff that I got for the N64, and I'm throwing it all over the place right here on stream. But
what he is working on right now is something he does not recommend you do because it's from a cloner. But there are good ones that are not from cloners.
got it. Yeah, exactly. This is just I like the new case, but not this clone case. I like the one from the other company that came out. And to be honest, this is not a clone, but it's from a clone company, and they cloned the box of a good case maker. So, in my opinion, same friggin' thing.
So, did it come with like an emblem to put on the front, or are you expected to take that like off of another N64 or
It
buy
did
a
come with
custom
that.
emblem?
Where's my camera here? Hold on. I'm
Oh,
looking at the
okay.
YouTube stream now. There we go.
Okay, yeah.
Raw Talent Arts fitting some Tim Worthington RGB kits this evening. That's cool. Which console? For N64 or for NES? Or heck, I guess Game Gear. Tim makes a bunch of those things.
So, something I was going to ask but got sidetracked. On Voltar's board, does that have deblur?
No.
So, I mean, what I think is so cool is on the RetroTink 5X. Normally, I don't use optimized modes because I'm a big believer in just using interpolation to preserve just generic 4:3 aspect ratio in 90% of cases. I think it's sharp enough and it's a little more accurate, just my opinion. But if you do want that N64 deblur, which N64 games are actually basically square pixel aspect ratio anyway. That's like how they're supposed to be. So it's fine to display N64 games with square pixels.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I think is so interesting is that the optimized sampling mode on the RetroTink 5X for N64 actually looks identical as far as I can tell to using an RGB deblur mod.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, you can use if you have a RetroTink 5X, there's no reason to spend extra on like one of the deblur mods. You can just get like something like, you know, the more just basic board that has the RGB amp like Voltar's. Not to say a Voltar's board is basic or anything.
No, I mean
Um
he would describe it as that, the N64 basic RGB mod board, definitely.
but you
Um,
could get that, and with a RetroTink 5X, you are getting the same result as you would from a mod with deblur. So I think that's really cool.
I actually don't like deblur. I loved testing it at first. I thought it was going to be my jam, and then I realized that N64 should probably be blurry. Jonathan Hinson, thank you very much. Really appreciate the super chat. Thank you. I really, honestly, I'm not just saying that because you're supposed to. I'm saying it because I mean it. Really, really appreciate it. And Demo Kirby, another one. Thank you so much. Warrior 64 tip: remember to use sandpaper. If anybody thinks that we're kidding, go back and watch the Warrior 64 video. They really did include a piece of sandpaper and tell people that they should sand down the context of their carts before using them.
Oh gosh. Yeah, Jonathan Henson and Demo Kirby are both North Carolina bros over here.
Oh, cool.
Have not yet met Demo Kirby in person, but I've hung out with Jonathan Henson a couple of times. Did a little CRT trading.
Nice, nice, nice.
No, it's Rears to Blood wants to know where Sandy is. Sandy, say, look at what Bob's doing over here. Look. This is how I get her to come over to me when I'm streaming.
Hi,
Look.
Sandy.
See?
You a good dog, Sandy?
Oh, here's Sandy. Yeah, look at that there. Yeah.
Hey, doggy. How you doing?
What is that? She's watching. She loves watching stuff on the screen.
That's so funny. My dog-in-law, my brother-in-law's dog, like I played Duck Hunt one time and thought for sure that she was gonna lose her mind, and she was just like, "What on earth are you doing? Let's go outside and play ball."
Yeah, her favorite system is the Wii. She likes she likes all of the scrolling motion when you like flip between pages on the home dashboard or following the hand on the menu. That's her favorite. She even recognizes the Wii dashboard music. Like if the Wii turns on and makes that little ding sound, she'll run from anywhere in the house to see the Wii in action.
Demo Kirby, Bob's first paw tip.
Yep.
Thank you.
Demo Kirby's wife is always dropping some paw tips in the MLiG chats just to see a little Sandy in action.
Thank you. So somebody mentioned something before, and I just wanted to clarify. They didn't want to get the Kickstarter because the Kickstarter can't include any kind of Nintendo logos. Except there are some really awesome people in the scene who make replacement stuff like this. Who would make it's so funny. They include the clone company, but they're afraid to put the Nintendo logo on here. But all kidding aside, when you get those, I guarantee you there's going to be people popping up that'll say, okay, well, here's this logo, here's that logo, here's the Japanese logo, the US logo. So you don't have to resort to clone companies for that. You could just get the good one, and they're not expensive. They're all very fairly priced, a couple of bucks or something like that. So this together.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that you didn't really have to take that whole heat shield off.
Yeah, that's a good trick. If I ever get to interact with Marshall at all again, I got to thank him again for that.
I think is this actually Marshall in the chat here? Retroactive?
Is that you, Marshall? That would be fucking hilarious. Well, dude, if it is you, at least you know I'm talking shit with love in my heart, and I'm not actually being mean. Oh, okay, it's not him.
It's not Marshall. That is Marshall's. That was Marshall's old website, though. I haven't checked it in a long time. Is it wasn't like retroactive.be?
I believe so, but yeah, that was. You know
Oh,
what?
is it? Oh, is it? Wait, is this actually
No,
when you
that's
say lol Kevin
retroactive
is?
Kevin. Yeah, Kevin contributes to the site.
Oh.
You know what's funny is one of the other things Marshall told me that had me laughing so hard. He was on a stream, and I don't know if I was on stream and he was in the chat or something, or vice versa, but he made some comment about how, you know, how dumb people are for having retro in their name because you can't tell them apart. And I kind of laughed. I was like, ha. And it took me like a good 5 or 6 seconds to remember, like, oh, he's making fun of himself too because he has retro in there. Oh, that went from like giggle worthy to actually funny. So
I mean, I thought My Life in Gaming was a really generic name, but people seem to like it.
no, that was a good one. You chose wisely.
I mean, we didn't really have like a specific I mean, we tried like number of variations of it, like My Life in Games, My Life in Video Games. Like our email address is actually mylifeinvideogames@gmail.com. uh
Right, because when I first emailed you, I was like, hey, did I get your name wrong on a post or something?
Yeah, well, I wonder how many people think like if I've emailed someone from that, like I wonder if they how many people felt like, wait a second, is this? This seems like a scam. This is not really them.
Metroid Lord said they're talking about the embossed logo on the plastic. Yeah, but see, even the clone company isn't putting that on there, which is hilarious because they cloned everything
Ah,
else. But
so but it has that still has that Nintendo shape there.
has the shape, but not the logo embossed
That's
in it.
funny.
So yeah.
There
Raw
was
Talent Art,
2000
thank you
Raw
again for the
Talent.
super chat. And no, I'm not aware. I haven't talked to Tito in a couple of days, but congrats if you're working on them. Obviously we're I don't want to speak for Mark, but I'm pretty sure we're both big fans of Tito's videos. So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
by the way, just for the record, what I'm doing here normally I would not do, because if you use an electric screwdriver, even a battery powered one, and you hold it down and you push too hard, you could pull, like if you ever see plastic that has like little indentations here, that's what happens. You're tightening it down too much. Except with all brand new plastics, whether it comes from a clone company or not, you're screwing it down for the very first time, so you're actually going to need to put a little more pressure. So what I do is I wait till the screw is mostly in, and I see the head just hovering, and then I do the last couple of turns by myself. But I like the extra pressure for new ones, and I still could mess it up, but I have a less guilt if I mess up a brand new one than an original classic.
I actually used my electric screwdriver for the very first time yesterday, but not for
Really?
video games. I was putting together an IKEA bookshelf.
My I used to work with a German dude who was freaking awesome. I got a picture of him on the website somewhere helping me with something, and he used to make fun of me for using this because he's, you know, with this thick German accent. You know, your shitty screwdriver, you have to replace it every year. And I said, well, even if I did, it was $12 at the time, $12 a dollar a month for this. And he's like, all right, that's a good point. Mine, that was 10 years ago. It was right before I started RetroRGB. It just died last week, and I just bought the exact same one. And I'm not even sure it died. I think the battery cap wasn't staying on. I think so. I probably could have, you know,
Mm.
tried to fix it. But 10 years for $12, yeah, I think that's a value right there.
It looks like Corey's in the chat here too. He's just said that Tito helped him a bunch with the memory card save episode that he's just finishing up.
What's up, Corey? That's another thing that anytime you have a power supply like, or a power button like that, I just left it in the on position and I couldn't get it on. And freaked out for about
Oh
half a
yeah,
second, but no, that's
yeah,
all it was. Just drops
yeah.
right
Power
into
buttons are
place.
always annoying like that.
Not the tightest fit, but let's see once we screw it down. And I will try to use a regular screwdriver for this, but if I need to put the pressure, then I'll grab my bit and use the electric one.
So you gonna use the I mean, was there anything wrong with the shell that this system came out of? You gonna use it for something else or
No, this is going to a friend of mine, friend of ours, actually, and uh, the other one I'll probably give to Brooklyn Video Games in case they get an N64 in that
Mhm.
doesn't have a good shell. Because I
Yeah,
love that
yeah.
place and I try to help whenever I can, which isn't as often as I'd like, but you know.
Well, there's a $5 super chat from Brian Borkowski.
Oh, thanks so much, Brian. That's really nice of you. Brian's got an OEM Smoke Black N64 with an Ultra 64 badge and Smoke Black EverDrive from Stone Age Gamer. That must look
Oh,
so cool. I
that,
love
that's
those.
that's a cool combo.
We do have an EverDrive that we'll be using as well. Metroid Lord, do you guys recommend replacing the caps on the N64 power supply? They've had there since that they were a kid and it whines now. So maybe we're gonna discover a good power supply replacement for it today. Maybe not.
Yeah.
We'll find out soon
I
though.
you know that's something that I had never really even thought about was just because the design of it is so unusual. I'd never even thought about like third party N64 power supplies before. Like I don't know really what's out there in terms of like what's good, what's bad. I mean, the ones I've had have never given me trouble.
Hmm.
The only thing that's a big pain about it is because it is so unique. Uh, if if you kind of install it in an entertainment unit, it's it's nice when you can just use like barrel style power supplies. They're the correct rating or something. You can just have a spare of those if you need to hook up your system somewhere else. But like because of how the N64 power supply is, it's like kind of a semi-permanent installation wherever you put it. It's always a big pain to pull it out.
Hmm. Hey, what's up, Chris? Chris Deo said he has a whining power supply, or had a whining power supply in their N64, and it did eventually die. A sizzle
Oof.
sound and a little smoke came out. So somebody else, Boo, mentioned it was 50 years that it's supposed to last, and that is absolutely dependent on so many factors. The relative humidity that it's stored in, the amount of hours, heat. I try not to obsess about that because you could definitely go overboard, but I would say, you know anything PS3 and earlier, anything has a chance of needing new parts, really. And that we've
Mm.
even seen PS4s need some repairs as well. So who knows?
Yeah, I think my N64 power supplies are good for now, but it's always good for people to be making some new solutions, especially since it's so proprietary.
Yeah,
Just
the
a
to
shape.
clarify, the 50 years was referring to FRAM memory, not the PSU. So if
Ah.
you got one of the forever packs with the FRAM in it, 50 years. Almost done.
Now would that 50 uh is that kind of just considered an assumption even based on no or very little use or is that just based on if you were using it regularly and writing and rewriting and erasing and stuff?
So that is based on, and I wish Shank was in the chat for this one, but I'm pretty sure that's simply based on specs of the chip itself. The
Ah.
design around it still has to have components that are rated to last that long. And
Right,
then
right,
once
right.
again, heat, power, if you're using a bad
Mhm.
power supply, that could kill something in days, not years.
Yeah. But so the manufacturer of that chip probably rates it for 50 years. They're probably assuming that it's going to be used relatively frequently. I mean, and let's be honest, like even a guy like me that loves N64 to death, it's not like I'm reading and writing to memory packs like every day, So
Yeah.
it's a relative I would say a relatively light use device, but an important one.
So, man, I really hope I was allowed to show this on stream. Here is. So first of all, an external power power brick, a Meanwell. I just I just turned and coughed as if I was looking at you, Mark. I guess good manners are never something to be ashamed of, but so this is a Meanwell PSU, and
Is
and
is Meanwell considered a good brand? I'm not
yes,
overly
yep.
familiar.
and a clear port. So let's get this thing together
Okay. So
and take a look.
so you have a shell for this.
Yeah. But what I don't understand, so you might have to put this in. Oh, I might have to take the whole goddamn thing apart again. Yeah, it's looking like the clear back will goes there.
Oh no! So it actually has to be uh
All right, I probably
kind
should have
of
done that
it's kind
first.
of
So the
permanently installed, and then you plug the external supply into it.
and that should be both international and a decent replacement. Except what I'm not understanding is what to do with this. Do you have to manually solder it in? Does it not? It did not come with a connector for it.
So who's making this?
Let me message him right now.
don't don't want you to be getting in trouble.
Let me see if they'll jump on, or at least jump in the chat or something. So we could still just show off some other stuff while we're doing this, I guess. But yeah, so that's the case.
Yeah, I mean you can always plug in the regular power supply. The black
There we
does
go.
look cool with the expansion pack in it, I will say.
Definitely.
The
The
clear
case
black.
quality, the fit is fine. The quality is fine. It's not like those I remember seeing Xbox and PlayStation cases back in the day where you'd press on it and the whole thing would go. I mean, this is not that bad at all. But it's not like UI's case. It's not like the actual retro is cool cases.
Mm,
And it's not like gamer store cases, but it's not terrible.
yeah.
And just once again to be clear, they obviously didn't clone somebody's case. This is the N64 case, and there's no way they stole a mold or anything because these were made before the other Kickstarter came out. But they did steal UI's box, which is zero gray area. There is absolutely no way that that's anything other than blatant thievery and very, very illegal, even in China. So,
You know, I call that case black, but what word would you use to describe the stock, regular, non-funtastic N64 cases, like the one that you just took off of this one?
I would refer to this one as gray.
So you would call see, I you know, it's so weird to me. I remember back in high school, like having this argument with some friends that they're like, "Oh, the N64 is gray," and I'm like, "What? Like, where is black? Like, where are you getting this gray from?" But you know what I think it was? I mean, I was such a Nintendo kid, and it was by far the blackest of the consoles that I had. Super Nintendo is basically white. NES is light gray and dark gray. To me, N64 was the first black console that I had, but a lot of other people had, Sega Genesis, and it is a lighter shade than a Sega Genesis for sure. But I still think of it as basically black.
Yeah,
Like it's a very dark gray. I wouldn't call it gray because it's very dark,
that's fair. I think
in my
charcoal
opinion.
is the most fair name, and I guess it's the official name as well.
I think that is the official name, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Chris? How you doing? Good to see you, man. All right,
Oh yeah,
so
we got Chris Fatson here with a $2 super chat. Howdy, Chris.
all right, so the one advantage of using these aftermarket cases, other than them looking pretty neat, is you shouldn't have to worry about different cartridges, and that's exactly what Mark was talking about before.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
let's plug it in and give it a try real quick, and then we'll decide what to do about the power supply. Hopefully, I'll get a response to that. So let me flip this over. Let me plug this sucker in, power on. All right, still works, so it's always good.
So
in the chat, what do people know what RGB modded N64s are going for these days?
I don't know.
The real Phoenix, you may have to open the original PSU, gut the old circuit, but keep it stripped the wires from the weird proprietary plug and screw them to the terminal of the new PSU. Yeah, I would hate to do that. You're right. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. You're most likely correct, but I don't want to do that at all. In fact, I would love a way to just. All right, so this obviously clips here. Well, it would clip here. I don't want to put it in because then I don't want to have to snap it. So that's cool. So that makes sense at least. But and then you'd have to have this, and that plugs in there. That's also makes sense. No problem there because I would just wrap that around. But yeah, you're right. Screw terminals. Matt said they're going for 150 to 250 depending on several factors. Thanks, Matt.
That's with an RGB mod installed.
That is with the RGB mod pre-installed. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't even know what N64s go for these days at all. So, like, in some ways, that doesn't sound that bad to me. But I
No,
don't
it
really
also
know what the
depends
base
on who
price is.
modded it, right? Who modded it? What's the board? If you got one of
Yeah.
those, box of crayons adapters on eBay, then you probably have a board that's not going to blow your system up, but it's not going to look right. You might have some issues with it. Whereas if you get a Voltar or a Boardy, or I think there's a couple other designs that are good, then that's fine. And then who installs it is another giant factor. Because do you have really long leads that could short out the motherboard after a while? Like it gets moved a couple times, it gets shaken around, and then those long improperly trimmed leads short up against something. So what board, who modded it is massive. And then I guess after that it's just standard N64 stuff.
Yeah.
Kim Caro, you're gonna have to give me a hint on how to pronounce your name properly. But the two reasons. First and foremost, this is going to a friend who does not live in the US. So they need an international PSU, and this one says it will input between 100 and 240 volts. So it's a standard PC style connector. So that, for me personally, is the number one reason that you would want to swap a power supply out. Number two is the exact scenario in which people had mentioned before. What if it's whining or screeching or making a sound or something like that? So I'm going to leave this aside. We're going to see if... let's see if we get... No response yet. So why don't I grab a controller, and you want to play a game or two?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, hold on 1 second here.
You gonna be using an EverDrive? I don't know a whole lot about N64 homebrew, to tell you the truth. I mean, I've tried like some Mario 64 hacks. Of course, I've tried the Dinosaur Planet build that exists, which is pretty interesting.
So we are plugging this in. Let me get, of course, EverDrive 64.
Someone asked in the chat earlier, and I don't know if it was because they saw this at the top of my stack or not, but this was actually, most of the import games I got recently were really cheap. This one's a little pricier, but this is, if you want to play an N64 game that doesn't look anything like an N64 game, go to, if you have Japanese stuff on there, load up Rakuga Kids. It is a wild, wild game. It's a Konami game. And I believe it came out in Europe as well, but it did not come out in the US.
Hold on a minute. We have a response. Let's see if I could find it. Okay. So, um, let me drop a link in the chat. I guess I was allowed to talk about this. But the problem is, it was Jason from Game Tech is selling them. This is the Re64, and Jason just mentioned that the guide on Game Tech shows you how to install it, except on Game Tech it shows you how to install it into an original PSU and do exactly what the Real Phoenix said.
Ah.
So Saturn.
Okay. So this thing is already a thing for sale, so there was no question as to whether you could look at it.
Yeah, I had no idea. I knew he was going to be selling them, and I just totally forgot. Yeah, this mod is for all right. Well, yeah. Hold on a second. Let me drop the link here as well if anybody wants to read it with me. Oh, the Real Phoenix said they posted a link. So I think YouTube is blocking pretty much all links. So you have to describe it or say go to game dash tech,
Ah.
and let me double check
Oh, okay.
this.
So this is how you install into a real PSU shell.
Yeah, but it's also, I skimmed it real quick. So I think what this would need is
Oh, you'd have to modify it to use that barrel adapter instead of the existing sort of
yeah.
three
So what
pin
you would have to
or six
do
pin.
is, let me try to get an angle here so you can actually see it lit. You would have to open this up and take that connector out, which would then, that would make the PSU kind of useless at that point, and this one is still perfectly good. I guess the other thing we could do is open the console and solder directly to the power pins on the motherboard, um, which I'm not sure I'd like to do that either. Because what if another mod comes out that's plug and play? Like, what if 10 years from now this one dies and another one's out, and now you
Mm.
don't need to? Interesting. All right, well, let's play some games. Let's see if we eventually get a response here. And sorry, he's responding. My bad. In Jason's defense, I didn't tell him I was streaming. No, Jason has never installed one of these because he just said, if I recall, you set it in place when putting the console shell together. PSU just snaps to it. All right. There should be. Where's Greg? Greg, Laser Bear, come save us. We need a 3D printed adapter for this.
Yeah, I mean that sounds it really sounds like the ideal thing.
Yeah. Darn. On to the games then. Let me switch this over. He said there's one coming where you don't need to.
Ah.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought that's the one he was eventually sending.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Switch N64 controller is really good in terms of the responsiveness of the stick and everything. I mean, for a lot of people, that would be a really cool way to get a a good conditioned stick.
All right, so I'm gonna start out. Shout out to MVG. I'm gonna start out with Wave Race 64,
Ah, man,
and then
what an
whatever Mark
incredible
wants
game!
after that. Uh,
Wave Race 64 is a game that I only played very, very lightly back in the day. And I never owned my own copy. I forget if a friend owned it or if he just rented it, but I played it just a little. And it wasn't until well after the N64's day. Um, oh, are we in composite here?
are we?
Yeah, I think we are. I'm looking at
Yeah, I guess we
that
are. I just
yellow.
assumed that's what all
I
N64
mean,
games look like.
N64 does have the best composite, but
It actually really does. All
um
zero kidding about that. It really definitely does.
uh but I got it like probably 2006, 2007, and man, like I just really fell in love with it. So it's like not really a nostalgia thing. Like this game is just I just think still so impressive and so fun to play. The wave simulation is, I honestly think, like kind of a miracle that they pulled off something kind of this technically advanced so early on the system.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm set enough. I'm not gonna bother setting up my camera. Y'all know what I look like.
I saw I saw Henry Clark saying not used to seeing Try's window be large enough to see the background very well. There's guides on the shelf behind you. A mixture of guides and other video game related books. It's a little. I actually just got a new bookshelf yesterday, so I might move some of the stuff that's on that shelf to there. I just need more things to put stuff on.
So this is basically a racing game, but on a jet ski, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um, you have to the main thing is you have to do the slalom sort of thing on the correct side of the L and R buoys. It doesn't always alternate left right left right. I mean sometimes there might be like two lefts in a row or something like that. Um, but I just think it controls really nicely. If you miss one, you'll lose your power, which increases your speed.
Just power down. You're right.
The the GameCube sequel is a little more mechanically complex. Um, but it's not as popular as this one, but it is fun, like kind of once you get used to it. Um, this is actually a sequel to a Game Boy game that's just called Wave Race. That was probably one of the worst first party Nintendo games. it's 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 bad. Like it's pretty much unplayable in my opinion. Uh, a much sort of better version of that kind of sprite based water racing game I actually just discovered the other day, and I happened to yesterday when I went to IKEA, I was near a game store and uh, I bought a, Eliminator Boat Duel for the NES, which I had either never heard of or every time my eye went over it in a game store, I was just like Eliminator Boat Duel. There's no way that game is good. But I was just on a stream the other night. I had some extra time to kill, and I was like, oh well, what's been added to the Nintendo Switch Online service since the last time I checked it? That was one of the NES games on it, and it's surprisingly technically impressive. Uh, it kind of alternates between these overhead um, sections and these behind the camera sections that have like some really interesting parallax and simulated 3D effects. Um, it's really really cool.
Are there any tricks? Like, what do the buttons do?
So if you gosh, it's like muscle memory. So like it's hard for me. If you oh gosh, what is it? There's several ways you can do it. Like a hit, like if you hit like try hitting down up A.
Hey, EB Chill, thank you so much. That's really awesome of you. Really
Oh,
appreciate it.
hey. I think it's if you just hold down up A and then hold A, you'll do a handstand, I think.
So down, up, A.
Yeah, I think that's how you do it. In later levels, there's like ramps that you can go off of, and you can do barrel rolls. You can do forward spins or backflips. You can also it's a little harder to do, but you like rotate the stick, and then I think it's A or maybe it's B. I forget. Um, but you can like turn the player around and like ride backwards.
Oh, and the R trigger jumps or something?
I don't think R does anything, but I could be wrong. By the way, I always play as the girl in this. She's the easiest to control, in my opinion. I don't know if that's part of your struggles here. I don't remember how this character controls.
All right, let me try switching, and then we'll move on. And if anybody in the chat could let us know, I realize I forgot to adjust the audio beforehand. So if the game audio is too quiet, too loud, just let us know. Quick game. So EB Chill, I'm trying to at least get entertaining here, so I don't mess anything up for you. I appreciate the super chat. Let me try to make it entertaining. All right, so her.
Yeah. I just think she's the easiest to control. It's been so long since I even played as the other characters, I forget how they control.
Welcome to Sunny Beach.
You can ride the dolphin. You can also ride the dolphin during. Can you do it during normal races by entering a code, or is that just in the warm up? I forget. Oh, yeah, you seem to be doing a little better so far. The GameCube sequel has there's a lot more, you know, if you're more into like the trick aspect. It has like a trick mode, you know, where you get points based on doing tricks and stuff like that.
Just let go of acceleration, rotate analog, and hold acceleration again for a cool move. So, oh, look at that! That is cool.
There you go. Yeah, you can do this. The handstand. I think you can also ride it backwards. I might have been confusing it with that. Yeah, you can do that. You can also just do a handstand or that's what I was describing before. If you do the down up A.
It's pretty neat. What was the game that you were just talking about before?
Try if you've got. Do you have Japanese stuff on here?
We have everything.
Try Rakuga Kids. I've not played it much, but it looks unlike any N64 game you've ever seen. Voltar, the point of this stream is to show that he had your board already installed on the bottom of this system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which I think is, I was explaining before that, you know, that is an excellent option for people with RetroTink 5X, because even if you're interested in deblur, the RetroTink 5X optimized sampling for N64 looks identical to RGB with deblur. So this is like sort of a Smash Brothers like fighting game, but it's got this like really crazy like kind of like crayon style art style that's just like, and it's,
Oh wait, I
I'm
get to
pretty
use
sure
the actual D-pad too.
yeah, and it's 60 frames per second. It's just like totally unlike most N64 games.
Oh, I think this is my new favorite N64 game.
It's really weird. Like I say, I don't have a lot of experience with it yet, but it's so bizarre looking.
Oh my god, this is so cool. I gotta tell my little brother to try this one. Little brother, he's in his 30s, but still.
Oh, my little brother will love these little cartoon characters.
No, but he does love the N64, so.
Yeah. As he should.
Matt said seeing an N64 game at 60 frames per second is strange. Yeah, I totally agree.
I mean, it is.
Hard to get used
I'll admit, it is. It is. There's not a lot of like full 3D 60 FPS games. Like,
are there any on the N64?
I mean, have you ever tried F-Zero X?
Yeah, that's 60.
I mean,
frames per second.
that's 60 frames per second.
We might have to try that next.
You know, back in the day, like, you know, when I was, you know, just a teenager and didn't understand, like, you know, resolutions and frame rates and stuff, I remember reading in Nintendo Power, and they were saying how F-Zero X was going to be the first 60 FPS N64 game, or at least the first, like, 3D 60 FPS game. And I didn't really understand it. I kind of misinterpreted it as being like the first 60 FPS game ever. Like, I didn't understand that like the games I had been playing before the N64 were already 60 FPS. But like just the novelty of, you know, playing in 3D was, you know, it totally distracted me from the fact that like the frame rate had changed, you know, kind of generation on generation. Oh, Voltar has never played F-Zero on N64. Have you played F-Zero on GameCube? I mean, that's the best F-Zero game. It's really hard though.
I do like the original. I'll always have an affinity for the SNES version. It's also one of my go-tos.
I like it, but I think the 3D ones are better. I like the N64 and GameCube F-Zero is the best.
This is really neat.
The graphics.
All right, well I think we got to switch to F-Zero because I could just play this game all day.
The graphics in F-Zero are very, very simple, obviously, to pull off the 60 frames per second.
F-Zero X, right? It's the only one here, I'm assuming.
Yep. Of course, if I don't can the EverDrive load up 64 DD games? I mean, it's not worth doing here, but I mean, there's you know, there is a whole like track creator thing that you can do with the 64 DD.
So, I do remember this game. I use it as examples of why I don't like the N64's graphics. Look at the road.
It's very dithered. This game is heavily. Whoa! What are you doing?
I don't know. I forgot. I hit trigger instead of A because I was just used to playing Wave Race.
Yeah. Now this game, if you hit R or Z, you will. That kind of helps you lean into turns a little bit if you need to.
Yeah, that's what I did by accident when I first started out.
But yeah, I mean, this game is extremely foggy, very dithered, very basic graphics, but hey, it is 60 frames per second. You know, and it needs it, you know, to be this fast. So yeah, this is not the prettiest N64 game, although I really do like the comic book aesthetic in the menu screen. It's really cool.
In the chat, they're saying it could do what you call it? It could do the N64 DD game. So let's see after this real quick. Also, I remember this in my N64 video. I use this as an example of why composite on a CRT is really excellent. When I was first planning on doing this stream, I was going to split the output and do RGB to my capture card, you know, obviously through the retro tank, and I was going to do composite onto a consumer CRT and then have the camera over my shoulder so you could see both. And I think people would be really shocked at how good this console looks in composite on just any basic CRT.
Yeah, let's see that the Retro Coupe said the N64 has the best wrestling games to date, and that's a very common sentiment. I'm not like a wrestling fan per se, but you know, one of my friends back in the day had a couple of wrestling games on N64, you know, so I played those with him, you know, just for fun. And you know, even as not a wrestling fan, I'll admit they were quite fun. I don't know which ones are considered the best, but that, like, N64, even in its day, like, it was considered like the place for wrestling games, like over PlayStation or anything like that. Like it, and still people say that the wrestling games are the best.
Yeah.
I also saw that Voltar said Gauntlet Legends 64 is the best game for the N64. That's a really interesting game, but I am intimidated by it because it seems very time consuming.
So, is this the same thing that we just played?
It is, but it has more modes. It's got like a track creator mode and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't think like this level here that you're playing is going to be any different, but it has more stuff. It's just cool to see though, because I can't remember if I'd ever tried this. I can't remember if I'd ever tried this before, just to try loading 64 DD games on the EverDrive. So that's.
By the way, we get Roger in the chat, 8-Bit Esquire. I have the next says Retro Podcast queued up, and I have not started it yet. But yeah, he's this week's guest on there.
Character art for F-Zero on N64 is very similar to character art in the Jet Moto games, most notably too. Interesting.
This game's definitely faster than the last. I might not have noticed if I didn't just play one right after the other, but it seems to be faster.
Interesting.
It's like Turbo, like Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
You chose the same like difficulty mode?
Everything the same, yeah.
Huh, interesting. Huh.
Tony Rosario wants to know something that I was hoping nobody would ask, because you'll all be very, very disappointed in me.
Are you playing through OBS?
I am playing through the OBS capture window, yeah. I figured the N64 is so slow, the lag doesn't matter.
Oh. So that's why you had trouble with Wave Race.
Actually, it's truly, that is really the reason, I'm sure. All right, well, let's switch to another one. And I guess if I'm waiting on... Kyle said, I'm imagining things, the disk drive version isn't faster. Hopefully. I don't know.
Maybe your capture window just started running better.
What else should we... what was it? Gauntlet 64?
That Voltar says that's the best game on the system and the best version of that
Gauntlet
game.
Legends? SimCity 64. Voltar, that's the one that they found that wasn't completed, right?
No, that was an NES one.
All right.
I don't know much about SimCity 64. I mean, I believe it's only 64 DD.
I'll show it real quick after this, but games like that, like, I would want to just sit and play, whereas like I just want to kind of check out a couple of games and hang out.
Yeah, that would definitely be like a kind of an involved game that you'd really be committing to. this kind of is too. This is a very long game, as far as I understand. It takes a lot of work to get through it. But it is.
Oh.
But what's interesting is, this was an arcade game, and I believe it has either some sort of password or memory card system for the arcade, so that you could like go back and like continue your game later. I forget how this works. Do you stand like in front? Oh, I think you go out that cave. I mean, I'm probably several seconds behind. You can like go to one of these things. I've always kind of been drawn to like the generic sort of D&D-esque fantasy of Gauntlet games, but I'm also very intimidated by them.
Oh,
Yeah,
this game doesn't suck. This is actually pretty neat.
After this, you should. Have you ever tried Beetle Adventure Racing?
I have not.
We
should message Audie and see what he recommends for a wrestling game.
Oh yeah. I will message him presently. Let's see. I don't know if he'll respond in time.
This really is exactly what I would have expected a good 3D Gauntlet to look like in this era. That's just zero sarcasm.
Let's see if Audie responds. Yeah, after SimCity, try Beetle Adventure Racing. I think that's one of the best third-party games on the system.
I do like Sin and Punishment.
Yeah, Sin and Punishment's great. Unusually arcadey for the N64. I've never played really the Nintendo SimCity games, like the Super Nintendo one or anything like that. I mean, way back in the day, I played a little bit of the PC one, but it's never been something that I've really gone back and revisited or anything.
I played the SNES one a lot with Cousin Scott as a kid.
Corey and I have, for some reason, signed a copy of SimCity for the Super Nintendo.
You have a signed copy?
No. Someone brought a copy of SimCity for me and Corey to sign at like, I think it was Too Many Games one year. I'm like, okay. Sometimes people brought Framemeisters and OSSCs for us to sign. But I don't know why SimCity for Super Nintendo was chosen, but you know, hey, I'll sign what you got, I guess. There's a $5 super chat from Historic Nerd.
Ian's here. Ian, you know, god damn it. Here you go, Ian. There. You happy? You happy now?
Oh no. Is he a stretcher? I noticed during the menu sequence, I saw a few like weird kind of, it looked like some pixel adjustments. So I wonder if this game is not particularly well optimized for the deblur function. Whoa!
Ian just dropped another $10.
Wow! Now you've learned how to rake in the cash. Guys, Gosh, stretch those pixels, man.
Oh, you're the man, Ian.
Right.
Before I move on to the next game, I was looking to see if there was a horse farm we could build or something just to make Voltar happy. Audie, what's going on, man?
Oh, hey,
right.
I suppose he did get my message.
And thank you very much,
I
Ian. That's very nice of you, by the way.
Audie, I was telling Bobby needs to play Beetle Adventure Racing after this, but then he wanted to know what would be a good wrestling game to play, and we only trust your opinion.
It's almost as if he wrote a book about it.
Well, this is true.
So where are we at, Audie? What are we looking for?
Well, first of all, you gotta correct this aspect ratio. I might be leaving if we don't. I need my generic 4:3.
All right. Then in that case, we're gonna do this one in composite.
Okay, that's fine. I'll accept 4:3 composite over RGB stretched.
I'm gonna start with WrestleMania 2000, and we'll see what Audie says. Have I chosen wisely?
I bet you've chosen horribly.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, TWW, it doesn't look bad at all because of the comb filter in the RetroTink 5X mixed with just the fact that N64 outputs very good composite video.
Yeah. I mean, part of that, to be fair, I think could be because of just the admittedly blurry output to begin with. It just makes the composite noise much less harsh. But I noticed it on Wave Race because you've got that push start on the title screen against the blue water, and I could see kind of the crawlies around it.
Trying to figure out what buttons do what.
Yeah, I think wrestling games use the C buttons pretty heavily for various like moves or directions or something like that. I don't remember. I mean, it's been a long time since I've played an N64 wrestling game or a wrestling game at all. There was a $5 super chat from good old Chris Fratz.
Oh, thanks,
saying,
Chris. It's nice of you, man.
The best part of the Bob and Voltar horse joke is that I have a friend that is a horse. Also, play an anamorphic widescreen game, you coward. You can always
which one on the N64? Do you remember which
you can always do GoldenEye. I mean, GoldenEye is probably the best example of that.
Yeah, I think I showed that in another video. It was
Perfect Dark has it too, but of course the frame rate is much worse. I'm trying to think, what else is there? I feel like there might be a racing game that has an anamorphic widescreen.
That would be cool.
There's got to be a few others, but I'm struggling to think off the top of my head. Jet Force Gemini has a letterbox widescreen mode. I'm pretty sure it does not have an anamorphic widescreen mode. I'm pretty sure. Brooks in the chat mentioned Jet Force Gemini, but
Ola Planeta, that's correct up until when the RetroTink 5X came out with its comb filter. And then, like, here, let me just pause real quick. Let me just switch it right now over to
Audie wants to know if you want him on the call.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Audie, call me on Discord, please, and I will add you to this next to Mark.
Oh, can you just merge calls that way?
No, it would be better if it was separate.
Oh, you can have separate calls going?
Let's try. No, you're right. I think it just merged it. No. No, I think you can have separate calls going. No, I just killed Mark. Guess what, Mark? You can't have separate calls going because it'll kill the first one if you join the second. So, Audie, try to join this one.
How do I do that?
Friends.
Oh, there we are.
Okay. Let's try to get all right. Hello.
Hi there.
You coming on video?
I can. It will require me to do a lot of finagling with my camera, phone and camera and stuff. But if you absolutely want me on video, I can be on video.
No, at your convenience. If you had your webcam there and ready, I would say yes, but people will still know it's you because I have your little icon thing blinking.
Oh, that's very nice of you.
How
Why
you
am
doing,
I
man? I
here?
miss you.
Yes. I understand you miss me.
You should have gone down to Retro World, man.
Well, I'm coming to Portland Gaming Expo
Oh, when's that?
in October.
Oh,
Yeah. I will not be there.
Well, that's why I would chose that over Retro. Even though it's on the other side of the coast, and it would have been much easier for me to just drive up to Retro World.
So where are you now? Are you in the US?
I'm in North America. That's about as close as I'll give you a geographical location.
Fair enough. So what game are we playing?
If I'm looking at your screen right now, it
No,
seems
what
that
do you
you're...
want us to play? I mean, sorry.
Oh, aren't you continuing with WrestleMania 2000?
I mean, he just made a random guess as to playing
Yeah.
that one, but we didn't know which one you would suggest would be the best.
So, I mean, on N64, the question of best wrestler is actually somewhat difficult because it is probably the most iconic system for wrestling games. I'd say if you want to play something a little bit different, see if you have Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 from Japan. You probably don't, though.
You probably don't. Eat that.
Did you
know
dump
who I am, Audie?
Did you dump these games yourself?
Ah,
I mean, Bob is the biggest N64 collector in the world.
You can
Yes.
stop the sentence that Bob is the biggest, and it will still be truthful.
So this said, is this the same Asmic that has like the purple dinosaur or the pink dinosaur?
Yeah, that was back in the day, and they were the financier of these games, but the developers Aki, and this one was only released in Japan. It is kind of the in-between between WrestleMania 2000 and WWF No Mercy, and I think this one is the more interesting one of the wrestlers because it combines a lot of different fighting styles. Like you can do MMA, you can do wrestling, you can do lucha libre.
I dislike the back textures on these characters.
You dislike it.
I dislike the back texture.
yeah, it's weird.
I mean, really, the entire torso texture is a little odd.
I mean, the thing about these that make them so special was that, for one, the N64, it was not very iconic when it came to fighting games, and these were kind of like the original arena fighters in that sense. They're very freeform. You have a lot of surface to fight out on, and the controls are very pick up and play, despite the fact that there is some complexity to them. It's very easy to learn. Whereas most wrestling games, especially up to this point, but even today, they get very complicated because they're trying to kind of force so much gameplay information basically into the game. They're trying to do so much from a theatrical standpoint that the gameplay itself kind of suffers. And these hit that middle ground really well. So that's why these Aki wrestlers, still to this day, I think, are so well revered. I think this is the best one because it combines simulation and kind of pick up and play aspects.
So that's one of the N64 wrestling game developers. A lot of the others were what was it? Ukes? Am I right on that?
The Ukes did the SmackDown games, and for the longest time did WWE games until recently.
Okay.
And then before then they did New Japan Wrestling games, yeah, which were competing at this time. Ukes actually did 2 wrestling games in Japan on N64, which was based on New Japan, and they're not very good.
Ukes is I'm trying to think what else. There's something like non-wrestling and non-fighting that I would know them for, right? I'm drawing a
Ukes?
blank.
They did Evil Zone on PlayStation,
Okay.
which is an anime fighter. I don't know what else you would know Ukes from. They've done a lot, but what you specifically would have known them for, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I was aware of them in some capacity before you talked to me about them in regards to wrestling games, but I forget what it would have been.
I mean, they did Hermie Hopperhead. Is that what you're thinking of?
Maybe.
That sounds like something you'd like.
It's not. I've never played it though.
Oh.
There was a $5 super chat from Chris Fratz again.
Hey, thanks, Chris.
If you want some words on widescreen 64 games, I could jump on the call. Gotta test my luck somehow.
Let's just invite everyone.
I'm actually definitely going to have to do another stream now to test the other power supply whenever I can get that clip in. So yeah, count yourself in for that one. I'll just give you an advance notice, which is hard for me, by the way. I don't know I'm streaming until I look up and go, hey, I think I could stream right now. And that's really usually it. I'm usually working on so many different things.
Yeah, you never ask me anymore to join until you actually stream, and then I have to jump in the middle.
Yeah, I never know, man. I never know. That was like when I was still in New York. I did a couple of planned streams, but not so often. Hey, Ian, thanks again. The board chest and tiny arms freak me out a little bit. Yeah, I know.
Broad
It's weird.
chest, I assume.
Look at the weird rib cage or something that you could sort of see. So odd.
Well, you're playing as a giant Baba who actually kind of looked strange in real life, though. You should...
I feel like you kind of look like you're playing like is ice cream shaped like wrestlers that's starting to melt.
That is scarily on track for this.
Yeah, how do you know that? Well, yeah, this is an interesting one, but if you want to play a more popular wrestler, I think either WWF No Mercy or WCW Revenge would be the ones that people are mostly familiar with, and those are very good.
That one. Here we go.
You were never much of a wrestling fan, were you, Bob?
I really was as a little kid, and then allegedly maybe I possibly got free TV in the early 2000s and got back into it and started watching the pay-per-views right around like the height of Stone Cold and The Rock and all of that stuff. And I don't know, I always really enjoyed it, but I also really enjoyed like it's got everything so many people want. Like, it's got athleticism that you can't deny it. Whether you don't like the storylines and you don't like how it's presented, the athleticism's off the charts in most of these matches. And I love the drama, because I usually hate all drama, but fake scripted stuff like that is so freaking amazing and funny, and a lot of the jokes and a lot of the inside jokes that they did, and I really appreciated it a lot.
I mean, it's in many ways American anime. You know, it's just kind of like it has a lot of the same sensibilities that people are now discovering.
I mean this with love and respect, but like I always looked at it as like like Real Housewives for meatheads.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah,
And they flip tables.
they do.
So this has
And
that
break
exact same spirit meter as the Japanese
Yeah,
game.
Yeah, so it's the same developer, it's the same series. This came a couple of years earlier. But this was kind of based on WCW, which you should, being from Charlotte and all. WCW is right there with you. It was like Charlotte
You hear that, Mark? He
slash
said
Georgia.
you're from the South, you have to like wrestling.
Yeah,
That's borderline racist right there.
Yeah, no, he's from the same town as Ric Flair. So,
Woo!
and Mark has like a wrestling personality.
I do.
Yeah, it's just a bold voice and always know what to say. You can cut a good promo.
I never know what to say. I only know what to say when I've scripted myself.
That is true. Actually, I have worked with you. I can confirm.
Now that I'm looking at this spirit meter, though, like I feel like this is likely one of the wrestling games that I played back in the day. I feel like that spirit meter feels very familiar.
Yeah.
How do you pin somebody?
It should be either the L button or the C down button, depending. I forget which game they switched it.
L. There we go.
It's surprising how a lot of these iconic wrestling games are Japanese developed, though.
No. I mean, predominantly, if you look through, if only there was a book you could read that goes over every single wrestling game ever made. But if you look at them, I'd say over 90% of wrestling games through history have all been Japanese developed, and very few were developed by Western companies.
You wouldn't expect that at all. But that also, I mean, let's be honest, probably explains why they're good.
Well, wrestling is a gigantic business in Japan, and in some eras were bigger in Japan than on US television. And so, no, it's not too surprising that Japanese companies would pick it up. And generally, wrestling games were kind of very early in the sports licensing stuff. That video game, like when you did soccer games and stuff in the 90s, you generally didn't have to license the likenesses of soccer players. You didn't even name them. It was just soccer team from Brazil, soccer team from Norway. And wrestling from the early 80s actually had to go in and deal with licensing. So it's one of the first sports genres that had to deal with all that. And in many ways, too, it's the original one-on-one fighter. A lot of the earliest fighting games, so to speak, were wrestling games, like tag team wrestling, Map Mania, that kind of stuff.
Is American wrestling at all popular in Japan, though?
Well, American wrestlers are popular in Japan. I don't think Japanese wrestling is still based on the same, but it's more
right. But I meant the characters and all that. Like, is that
it kind of
translated to Japan?
Yeah, in some ways. There's a lot of talent export and trade between Japanese and American wrestling. And like these days, for example, there's a very famous example of that with a guy called Kenny Omega, who is from Canada, but gigantic star in Japan and now becoming pretty popular in the US as well. And back in the day, Hulk Hogan was Ichiban. He was one of the biggest wrestlers in Japan. And even released a vinyl record of his old album, which I own.
Of course.
You had an album? I bet you it was terrible.
Oh, he had two. So he had the Ichiban album in Japan in the 80s, and then in the 90s he had Hulk Rules with Hulk Hogan and the Wrestling Boot Band. I have both.
So when's the new version of your book coming out?
When is my new book coming out, or a new version?
Didn't you have a hardcover version, or is that not
announced?
Yeah. And I accidentally outed you on that?
No. Yeah, so the hardcover version, I paid for the print a while ago, so it should, like, the pipeline for these things are kind of steep, depending on how many you're ordering, and I didn't order that many.
Yeah.
so that should be here during the fall season. And I will probably update it in a few years and release a new version of it, just because, of course, exactly as I kind of finished up mine, which deals with development up till 2018, there was suddenly a new kind of string of wrestling games being released after having been dead basically for 10 years.
I know it's kind of crazy how I was thinking about that not that long ago. How there was multiple new games every year during, the 90s, and now like I never hear about new wrestling games. It seems like one comes out for a while, and then that's good enough to satisfy anyone who wants wrestling video games for a while, I guess.
Yeah, because I mean the sport itself kind of died down to only WWE, and so you would only get WWE games from one developer, being Ukes, who I don't think is really that good of a developer.
Mhm.
And I met them and I talked to them in relation to my book, and they're very nice people. But even they would say that they were stretched thin for
Mm.
almost a decade. Um, so yeah,
Tennis games are also not being made. I miss them. I really did
yeah,
like
Virtua
Mario's
Tennis.
Tennis.
There's
I
a
really
really
did
good
like that one.
there's a good tennis game on N64.
Is there? I'll play it
Yeah,
after Sin
I
and
think
Punishment.
it was only released in Japan and Europe. I think in Japan it's called Let's Smash, and then in Europe it was called Center Court Tennis.
Huh. I mean, Mario Tennis is of course also very, very
Mario Tennis, yeah, but that's kind of hold that in its own
yeah, but I mean, I've
genre.
never played like I assume that's like going for more of a realistic human type of like a Virtua Tennis type of deal.
So I
Wasn't
see.
wasn't there a Wii version of this that allowed you to play it with the Wiimote as like a gun or something?
No, you still have to play it with an analog stick through the virtual console. But then there is Sin and Punishment Star Successor, which is the second game that was released on the Wii. Is like a full Wii game, and you use the pointer to aim, and it's basically tied with Mario Galaxy as the best Wii game.
Mhm.
If not maybe better.
I think that's
It's
exactly the one
amazing.
I was thinking of, by the way.
That is an amazing, amazing game, and it's kind of sad that Treasure basically died after that.
Yeah, there's so this is obviously the English translation of the game, which I don't remember when the patch came out, but it was during the RetroRGB era, and it was before we were doing news posts. So I would say look it up on the site, but it's probably not there.
I never got too into these games. I mean, I'm not the biggest Treasure fan, which usually shocks people when I say it, but I just find their gimmicks kind of unbearable at times.
I feel like these games have a very different feel from the typical Treasure game.
Yeah, I mean this is like Space Harrier.
Yeah, and I mean, and even aesthetically, I feel like they're extremely different from most Treasure games. Yeah, I like these a lot. I mean, these are near the top, or maybe the top of favorite Treasure games for me. By the way, Bob, I think it's the R button that jumps. Oh, there you go, you jumped.
Okay. Oh, and the C button moves
Or
left
is it
and
the
right.
L?
Look
L
at it.
are you holding the? I mean, there's multiple control styles, but like
I'm holding the
default,
trigger.
I believe, is like left handle and middle handle, right?
Yeah. Cash Bandicoochie, hilarious name by the way, but this is Audie who's on the call. If you just spell it like the car and you search RetroRGB, we got an interview, links to the stuff that he's done.
That's right. You never actually introduced me.
I mean,
I just assumed everybody knew who you
need
were.
no
Sorry.
introduction.
No, that's not.
You're famous.
You need no.
Yeah.
Everyone here knows who you are, except the guy who just asked, "Who is this?"
Oh, you're gonna get like a long string of people in that chat now saying I never heard of this guy, and I wish I didn't.
Let me just drop a link then to
Don't need to drop a link. I already explained where to find it.
Good morning, Iron.
Okay, so if you want to watch Audie trolling at his absolute best, that 3DO stream is definitely where you'd want to go.
Oh yeah, we did that 3DO stream. See, I love the 3DO. Over the weekend, I moved into a new apartment, and right now my retro center, the only console I've hooked up is the 3DO.
There you go. All right. What was the other game? Tennis you had mentioned.
Oh, Let's Smash.
Japanese.
Yeah, that was the Japanese version, and then Center Court Tennis in Europe. I think it was never released in the US. It's part of the Smash series, though.
The Europe one's gonna run at a weird refresh, though. Yeah.
Still, you know what's weird about the N64 library is that there's a ton of ROMs out there for European games that are actually 60 hertz, but the actual, retail cartridges are 50 only. So I wonder, like Lilith Wars, that has a 60 hertz dump, and I'm just wondering where did that come from?
I mean, maybe someone edited it.
Maybe, must be, because like,
yeah, that's blurry.
Look at this guy expecting high-res textures from N64.
So I wonder what speed this is running at. I mean, if you were looking at a CRT, you'd be able to tell immediately.
Yeah.
Or I guess you can look at the RetroTink info to see if it's 50 hertz or 60 hertz.
Nope.
Status, I assume.
50 hertz.
So this might be. I wonder if it actually is going to be plain slower, or if it's just going to be a lower frame rate than the Japanese version.
That's a good question. It probably just runs slower.
This does look cool, though.
Yeah, it's a good tennis game.
I've never seen this before.
I actually have this because, there was a drought of N64 games at some point, especially in Europe, and this was the only thing they had at the store shelf. And I was like, I guess I'll buy a tennis game, and it was really cool. It's really fun.
Yeah, I like kind of the. It seems to have an interesting aesthetic.
Whiskey Vengeance. This is using an EverDrive, so you can do that with an EverDrive.
However, my understanding is that running a 50 hertz ROM on the N64 is not exactly the same as playing it on actual PAL system. Yes, it will run slower and it will output it at 50 hertz, but I believe the music will not run at the same pace that it runs on a real PAL system.
There is some sort of weirdness like that, yeah. I forget what the actual thing is there, but you are right. There are some slight differences.
Yeah.
Yeah. That the
but you can fundamentally play PAL games. It's just that the sound, as far as I know, it should be just like running on a PAL system, except maybe for the sound.
PAL was pretty brutal for us during the N64. I grew up in Europe, and PAL N64 games were especially brutal because they barely did any conversion. Like Rare, I think Rare is one of the few that tried to optimize the game speed for 50, but generally you would just get like borders and slower gameplay.
I'm gonna miss strike one.
You know, you should try after this. I only just recently learned this existed, and I've been meaning to try it on EverDrive, but I haven't done it yet. I didn't know that there's a Star Soldier game for N64.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking of it because this is Hudson. I think that was. Am I right, Audie, that that's only Japan?
Is it? Didn't that get a US release?
Did it?
Or was that Last Legion? I forget. One of them. It could be that this got a US release though. Star Soldier on N64.
Oh, you're absolutely right. It did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
It's not terrible. I mean, it's one of the few shooters. If you want to play fighters, there's some we talked about N64 fighters a long time ago. Try.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will just say it doesn't have many fighters or any fighters, but there are actually some rather interesting and good fighters for N64.
Yeah.
There's Mace the Dark Age, which I maintain is a pretty good weapons fighter. It's not like Soul Calibur, but it's cool.
Yeah.
There's Rakuga Kids from Konami, which is a 2D
Yeah,
fighter.
we played that, and I actually just very recently got it.
You got a cartridge of it?
Yep,
Yep.
it's sitting next to me because I have this massive stack of games that I haven't gotten around to cleaning that I've acquired recently.
And then Fighter's Destiny, which I think are really cool.
The Fighter's Destiny games are interesting. That's actually among the N64 games that I bought recently that's sitting over here. That and 2, I got both of them. What's so interesting about those is they are fighting games that aren't always about who depletes whose life bar first. Like
no, it's timing and precision. It's a point-based fighter.
You win based on completing, like, you get points for meeting certain criteria or fulfilling certain objectives in the fight.
Yep.
And as a person who is not generally a fighting game fan, I find that to be very interesting.
Yeah. I think those games have a lot more merit than they're given. Not saying they necessarily have to be at Evo or anything, but I do think there's a competitiveness to them.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Then there's Gasp, Fighters Next Dream, or Deadly Arts in the US, I think.
That one has a fantastic name, but is maybe a little less good.
The soundtrack is really good, though.
There's
it's one
that,
of the coolest soundtracks.
Evangelion game.
Oh, and the Genesis Evangelion?
Yeah, which, I mean, it's
I
a
feel like
fighter.
they took
I
all
haven't
of the
played it much.
characters and all of the assets from Mario Kart for this. It's so funny.
Say what?
It feels like they took a lot of the assets and menus from Mario Kart for this. At least in the character select menu.
No, they're different. They're different. Yeah, the Evangelion game is just like really interesting for its like presentation qualities.
Yeah, it combines a lot of 2D elements with like the 3D mechs. It's really, man, N64 is really neat once you start digging beyond just kind of the surface party games.
Yep.
It's really fun, and especially in Japan, you have a ton of interesting games that most people haven't really played.
Yeah,
I said the same about the 3DO, and Bob didn't listen to me, and he just played all the nonsense. But
I played every game that you asked me to play.
Silence.
I should probably talk to you, Audie, about some more ideas for I've been building up my N64 collection even more recently because I have this dream of doing a video titled 64 third-party N64 games worth playing.
Is that the title of the video?
That is what I very specifically want to call the video that.
Okay.
Which most people I have expressed this idea to think it's an impossible task, and I actually think, especially if I get some input from you, I think I'll be cutting games out of the episode to make it only 64. Because I think there's a lot of most people say, like, oh, the N64 only has 2 good games worth playing, or the only games worth playing are like Nintendo and Rare, and that is just like so grossly untrue.
For the record, I say that all the time sarcastically. I don't actually mean that. Some people take it seriously, and that's
some
not my
people
fault.
probably do know that I think they deep down understand that it's a bit hyperbolic to say that it only has 2 good games.
Why don't we try Ridge Racer on N64?
That's a game that I remember playing like in EB Games or something back in the day and thinking it was fine, and I thought it was generally well received.
A Ridge Racer. Yeah.
Ridge Racer 64?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was generally well received, but like nowadays I feel like I've not heard anyone say anything.
It's right there. RRR64.
Oh, RR64. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Like what's your take on that? I suspect John hates this.
No, he does not hate it.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean, it's an American developed game, so
Yeah,
it's
it's
not by Namco.
NST.
Yeah, and it's different. I think a lot more people have played this than they think, because this was actually ported to the DS as a launch game.
Oh,
Uh,
I actually I don't think I still have it, but I used to. I did get that early
Yeah.
on.
So that's the same game as or there might be some slight differences,
Well,
but
different controls
primary.
for sure.
Yeah. But I think this plays just fine. It's a fairly good arcade racer on N64. But you gotta remember that this came out after Gran Turismo, and there just was no competition in the driving space at that point. Like, everyone was on that simulation kick.
Mhm.
So
Is it 30 frames per second?
it is not 60.
I know it's not 60, but I'm just trying to identify, because I mean 30. I mean, admittedly, is somewhat notable on N64. I'm not I'm not super good at eyeballing it, especially on a stream, but it looks relatively smooth to me here. The Top Gear Rally games, or at least I'm not too familiar with the other ones, but the first Top Gear Rally at least, like, just almost feels unnaturally smooth on N64. I mean, I know it's only 30, it's not 60.
Right.
This is
But it's
definitely
still,
my first time playing Ridge Racer for N64.
It's not too bad, is it? I mean, it's not T4, or sorry, T4, R4.
So what I think I'd like to do is, the next N64 stream, which maybe it's the last N64 stream ever. Maybe I'm gonna send this N64 out and never get another one. But I think I should do it with the blue retro adapter that 8-Bit Mods is selling, because I hate this controller, and that I'm not kidding about at all. it's unique, it's different. I don't like it. So I think I'm gonna
love
try
the
that
controller,
wireless
but
one.
do you have the Brawler? From...
No, I've had to sell quite a bit of stuff, so that was one of the things I didn't miss when it went out the door.
Yeah, I never tried the Brawler. I just know that some people have it.
I mean, it's good, but oftentimes I have found myself ending up with controllers that I was excited to get, and then I realized that I was trying to solve a problem I didn't have by getting this controller. Like I was so excited to get the NES Dog Bone, because it's like, oh, it's got curved edges, like it, that sounds so nice, and everyone complains about how much the NES controller digs into their hand, and I never had that problem, but I still had this compulsion to like have this controller that wouldn't have the sharper corners. And then when I got it, I'm like, oh, I actually kind of don't like the spacing between the A and B button. This is not comfortable. And yeah, like the way I hold the NES controller has never dug into my hands. So I was like, why did I go through the trouble of wanting to get this controller? And then the same thing with the N64. It's like, oh look, the Brawler is the N64 controller, but modern. And same thing with like the Hori pads. Like they're cool, and they are nice to use, but at the end of the day, it's still like, but I like the N64 controller. I don't need these replacements necessarily.
Oh yeah. 64 controller is my fetish. Have you guys ever played the what's it called? World Driver Championship, I think.
For N64?
Yeah.
We will now.
Yeah, so that's
Chris in the chat. When that stream happens, we're gonna fight. Chris, we definitely gotta do that stream together. You're gonna have to jump on this one, or when I do that. All right, so that was World.
I think it's World Driver. It's one of those.
Championship.
It's one of those cool test subjects for N64 because it has some screen modes you should check out.
Oh, really?
It doesn't have much fog at all and runs fairly smooth. So, yeah, I'm guessing you have an expansion pack plugged in, right?
Actually, just to be clear here for a moment, I don't just have the expansion pack. I have the Forever Pack 64.
Oh.
So yeah, it's a 4-layer tech. I want to make sure everybody knows I got all my correct N64 gear.
Yeah, so go into options and let's look at the this is a fun one to play around with, especially when you're testing like tinks and whatnot.
Is this a Eurocom game?
It's a Midway game.
Okay.
Display.
I mean,
wait,
Eurocom
there's
ported a lot of
normal,
Midway
high-res,
games.
and high-res letterbox, right?
Yeah, try the high-res letterbox because it's a real, it's a real widescreen.
Wait, but letterbox wouldn't be.
Yeah, it's not 16 by 9, right?
I think there's some. Try it.
If it's letterbox, it wouldn't be anamorphic.
That's a good point. All right.
Yeah.
Far view, outside, inside with mirror, inside. Which one do you suggest?
I'm gonna try outside.
I just prefer that. Whoa.
Yeah, I think I've seen this game a bunch of times, and
We did it on the Gran Turismo DF Retro.
wow, what is that gamma for? That's
I don't know, but we gotta try it now.
N64. It's very bright looking now. But like for some reason, this menu just kind of made me think of Eurocom for some reason.
What?
I can't remember specifically a Eurocom menu, but
I don't know. Something about it just gave me a vibe.
Oh, there we go. Took me a minute to figure out. You had to select.
yeah, I
and
was
then
gonna
back
say,
out.
what are you doing? All right.
So this is what was it? World Driver Championship?
Yes.
So, what is the purpose? Does this just get the frame rate up because it's not filling the entire screen with video?
High res. If you, I forget all the details about this, but if you watch the Gran Turismo video at DF Retro, that we can't go through it point by point.
I
if you
did watch the
compare it-
Gran Turismo video. You showed an N64 game in that?
We showed every competitor to Gran Turismo across the consoles. It says there.
Oh, so this is an interlaced mode right now.
Oh.
Oh, I got it.
You should compare it also to, obviously, low res. But, I mean, also look at the... there's not much in the way of fog or anything here.
Yeah. There's a bit of pop in with some of the billboard objects.
I always found this game extremely fascinating.
So it kind of sucks.
It doesn't play very well.
Let me try
I
the other
didn't-
mode. All right, so.
You could switch on the fly.
Oh, I didn't realize. Well. I'm just going to do the same exact so we could see apples for apples. And is this
Okay,
still
so we're in non-widescreen now?
right?
Man,
so now it's in-
that shadow under the car is dark.
Yeah.
But it looks like it might actually be like drawing it as like a proper stencil. Is that like I'm going to be paying attention as he turns, like if the perspective of the shadow actually maybe I can't tell if I don't think the perspective of the shadow is actually changing.
No, it just
Or
moves
no, it is.
under.
It is.
Is
It
it?
is because now like the whatever the I don't know what you call the raised thing on the back of the.
Well, I got to turn the gamma thing off now. I want to see if the shadow is still the same with the gamma off.
But that shadow perspective changes. It does look really interesting.
Do you have any idea why they would put that in there?
Put
Gamma
the
correction?
gamma.
Yeah.
I wonder if it has like. Could it have something to do with I mean, for one, some TVs were just dark, I guess, but I wonder if it has to do with like maybe the different video modes might cause the TV to be brighter or darker?
Yeah, it could be.
I've raced
I mean-
cars in real life, and never in any race have I started a race at 100 miles an hour, gone across a slightly sloping left corner, and spun my car out.
You know, I often think about how I've still never played a video game that really makes me feel like this has captured what driving in real life feels like.
You never played race driving?
You you mean the low polygon arcade game?
Yeah.
Yes, I
Blue
have.
Hike, that was Digital Foundry. DF would be under DF Retro. And yeah, you got to subscribe. They're awesome.
Thanks.
And somebody was talking about Dreamcast RGB episode. I already did that. I already did a very
They might have been
very
talking
deep dive.
about My Life in Gaming doing one of those because our RGB 200 series has been on pause for longer than it should have been.
Let me all right, so let me drop both of these in the chat. Here's like the generic one. Not generic, but this is like the basic overview. But this one, it says HDMI output, but watch this video and you'll have everything you need to know about Dreamcast outputs.
Let's see.
you,
Let's find some obscure games here. So go to Japan and play Airborder.
Airborder.
Yeah, let's see. Let's get some.
Every once in a while, I'll click on the chat in the YouTube window, and then I'll just look in the YouTube window and go, why isn't my controller working? And then I realize I gotta go back to the OBS window. Billy, it actually would teach you to drive a manual transmission and really drive for race driving. Yes. Yes, I'm sorry. I skipped over the first part. Yeah, I actually Airborder, is that what you said, Audie?
Yep.
Yeah. That's I remember that as a kid. I remember going to the arcade and practicing my standard on that. Yeah, I thought you meant that last game we were playing for a minute. I was like, no, it freaking won't. No, you're totally right about race driving.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
I play race driving a lot.
I see Ola Planeta has been saying, try where the last parts of Alien Frontiers coming out. I've been holding out and watching them all on Blu-ray when you sell it. Oh man, that makes me feel bad. This is gonna be a while until the Blu-rays are done, even after the series are done. I mean, I don't know, maybe it won't take that long. I'm not sure. I mean, part 4 is partway edited, and I'm hoping I can get back to editing that soon. But then there's going to be, 5 parts total. So, the Blu-rays will happen when they happen. I mean, I don't know. I would recommend going ahead and getting going with it, but it may still be. I doubt part 4 and 5 will come out this year, but I'm going to do everything in my power to get part 4 out this year. I'm definitely still going to do an episode or two that is not Analog Frontiers this year. In addition to, I'm helping John on a Final Fantasy 13 DF Retro, and might help him on some other DF Retros. So lots of demands on my time right now, but I want Analog Frontiers done more than anything for sure.
Interesting. So, was this actually a race and not a Tony Hawk style game?
What?
Was this actually like a race and not a Tony Hawk style game?
Yeah. So you race and do tricks at the same time.
All right, let me try this. You do know I don't read or speak Japanese, right?
Well, that's what makes it so fun. Let me just answer this work while you.
All right, let's try this again.
That character design makes me think of the main character in Grandia 2 for some reason. So is this? I guess this is like a hoverboard. I mean, it is called Airborder, so.
That's what I was assuming. Very odd. Very, very odd.
Yeah, it's a very unknown game for the system.
How do I get to the other side?
Yeah, it seems like you always end up just
You
going straight
airboard.
vertical. Airboard better, Bob.
Yeah. Have you never airboarded before?
Yeah, okay. I think one more, and I think we should call it. I think when we're getting to these weird ass games now, Audie's just absolutely trolling.
Earlier I wanted you to try Beetle Adventure Racing. That's a safe one to end on. You should.
Perfect.
He should end on Maze the Dark Age. Maze is a fun game.
I mean, Beetle Adventure Racing. Is
at the end of a stream like this, I have zero faith that Audie's going to point us in the right direction.
Maze has
It's
interesting
awesome.
qualities, perhaps, possibly, maybe.
No, I love Maze.
Star Wars Pod Racer, huh?
I do not like that game.
Wow. All right.
I do not like that game. So this game came to Europe under a different license. I forget what the car, or not Europe, Australia. Only Australia.
Oh,
had a
Penny
different-
Racers?
Huh?
Penny Racers?
No. Penny Racers that's what, Koro Q, right?
Oh, that's Koro Q. That's right.
No, this is Beetle Adventure Racing. That is what this is. This was developed by Paradigm, which was a Canadian company, I believe.
And you say it was released under a different license?
It's a different different car in Australia. Only Australia. Hang on, let me. Let's see. Yeah, it came out in North America and Europe in they all came out in '99. It was released in Australia as HSV Adventure Racing. This version replaced the Beetles with HSV VT models, which is Bob's the car guy. Does HSV mean anything to you, Bob?
No, but in the context of something, it would.
Yeah.
Like if I saw, if we were, somebody in the chat just said Holden HSV.
Holden
no, that
Special
actually doesn't.
Vehicles, yeah. Yeah.
Holden VT.
So for some reason, Europe, or not Europe, Australia, just Australia got a different car license. So what's cool about this game is it's got like a ton of side paths and shortcuts, and there's it's called adventure racing very much for that reason. And then obviously you're not going to play like you almost busted through the barn, but like you can have a lot of fun kind of exploring off the beaten path in this one. And
Keen for Listerine said Holden was an Australian auto manufacturer, and I believe they got a lot of cars like that, where the cars would be available other places, or vice versa. I think the one of the last Pontiacs made the Grand Prix, but there was one of them that was actually a Holden, and they just took the chassis from or something. That's right.
But
the G8 and the GTO, yeah, well done. Good to see some car people in the chat.
This
all right,
game,
I want to do what is the Pod Racer one just for the hell of it, because that's
yeah, you can do that. I think the Dreamcast version of that is maybe okay. I've never tried it myself.
What was it called?
Star Wars Episode 1 Racer.
There we go.
This is a fun enough racer.
I've never liked it.
Did you know, Try, that Beetle Adventure Racing actually has a wrestling connection?
No.
Because I think that was an EA game, right?
It was published by EA, but developed by Paradigm.
Yeah, so it's probably. And WCW at some point signed up with EA. They made like WCW Mayhem and Backstage Assault. And one of the ways that they promoted the release of Beetle Adventure Racing was that during the wrestling shows, like during the WCW shows on TV, there would just be a Beetle parked next to like the wrestler's entrance,
Wow.
and they would just cut to it here and there and be like, in stores now, Beetle Adventure Racing.
Is
So,
that little story mentioned in your book anywhere?
I don't think I mentioned that anywhere, just because like it's too much of a small trivia.
That's a bit tangential, sure.
Yeah, but yeah, like that's my only memory of that game, was that it showed up. Because I was confused during that time, because there was a N64 Monster Truck game, Monster Truck Madness 64, which actually has unlockable wrestlers in it. You can race with like Hulk Hogan's monster truck or Sting's monster truck, that kind of stuff. So for the longest time, I thought Beetle Adventure Racing also had like a Hulk Hogan Beetle in it, and it does not.
So somebody in the chat wants to know if I have 2 N64 controllers. I actually don't, and believe it or not. But do you know if this game could be used with 2 N64 controllers, one for each analog or something?
Oh. That would kind of make sense. I mean, that would be cool. I mean, GoldenEye and Perfect Dark actually have control schemes like that too.
So this was cool, but all right, let's go and see if we could change the options to go into 240p mode.
Was it interlaced and bad frame rate?
Low res.
I generally find that the high res modes they have worse performance.
Oh, that looks not as good.
Yeah, I guess not. I actually just bought this game in part of my recent N64 spree, only because I used to own it back in the day, but I got rid of it, but I still had the box. And it kind of bugged me that I had the box, but not the game. So I was like, ugh, I'll get it.
I was just about to ask, but Billy in the chat beat me to it. Apparently the high-res mode was 30 frames per second and low-res mode is 60, which looks cool, but I mean, this is definitely something I'd want to play on a CRT. Where's the DF FPS meter here?
I don't think this is
not 60.
This is not 60.
Yeah, I don't. It just looks so different. So different.
Mm-hmm. But wow, even with all that turned around, getting out of that cave only dropped you down to 3rd place. That's pretty impressive. I like the double lens flare on the Suns. That's cool. I mean, I don't know. I gotta be honest, like watching Bob play this, I'm like, maybe this isn't as bad as I remembered it being, but I remember not enjoying it that much back in the day, especially because there's no music during gameplay in this version.
Is that so? I don't remember that. Is that true?
It does not have music during gameplay.
Oh wow.
I'm pretty positive.
I must have completely forgotten.
Because I remember
played this a lot, but I don't remember.
I remember playing, or maybe I just didn't like the music that plays during the game.
You just turned it off.
I don't know. I remember there was something about the music in this game, either lack of or quality of, that bothered me. And I remember like actually playing like the Star Wars Episode 1 soundtrack CD in my CD player while playing the game. Well, it says music there on the options.
It also had a toggle for lens flare.
Maybe I'm remembering wrong. Maybe there is music and it's just.
So the frame rate is definitely lower, but the resolution is so much better.
Yeah, it looks a lot
sharp,
clearer for sure.
Yeah.
But that's typical. Generally, I don't recommend high-res modes on N64 games just because the frame rate is usually a lot worse.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I haven't watched the whole thing yet. I started it, but the GameSack episode that released this past Wednesday covers, supposedly, every single expansion pack supported N64 game. Which,
does it just show the games, or does it tell like details about it and stuff?
Oh, I mean, Joe, does his usual like, here's what I think about this game, but he moves through it like really quickly. because there's a lot of games to get through.
Oh, maybe John and I will have to sit down, look at some expansion pack games eventually.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not as cheap to get an expansion pack anymore as it used to be. I finally bought a second one a year or two ago because I was like, well, I know I'm going to regret not having 2 of these, so.
Sorry, a giant truck just pulled out in front of my house, and it looked like they were about to drive on my lawn, so I was just looking out the window like, what the hell?
Do you guys remember the other Phantom Menace game? Like the overhead RPG, or adventure game rather? The one that came out on PlayStation 1?
No. I remember learning recently that, oh no, it wasn't episode 1, I think it was episode 3. It's like a brawler on GBA.
Yeah, that's by Tribute. That's by the people who did Turtles recently.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's up, Clint? Yeah, we're here with Audie too.
Right.
Clint, unlike Audie, actually showed up to Retro World Expo and hung out with all of us.
I'll be at Portland.
With none of the rest of us.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
That's your problem.
Yeah, it's not like we didn't invite you or give you notice.
Yeah,
6 months earlier.
I was busy.
You were a shorter drive away than me.
I've been working at Plumbers Don't Wear Ties.
Bet you have.
I have. Yeah, the PS1 Phantom Menace game is really interesting because it's like an adventure game, and I remember playing that and looking forward to getting to the pod race.
Guys.
Go ahead. But yeah, I remember getting to like the pod race section of that game, and they show like the cutscene leading up to the race, and it goes to black, and it just cuts to like after the race. So you didn't actually play the pod race in that game, and I was so disappointed.
So it's an overhead.
Yeah, that giant truck that almost ran into my driveway was for me. That's great. Well done. Or almost ran into my grass, but sorry.
So
do you actually do gardening?
I mow my lawn and I make it look. I do the bare minimum to make it invisible. No one ever walks by my house and goes, "Wow, look at that lawn and landscaping." But no one ever walks by my house and goes, "What asshole wouldn't do any of the basic necessities?" So that's
do you wear a shirt when you do that?
I often wear a tank top, and I would totally do it shirtless if my man titties went down a little bit more.
You're not bad. I mean, you got like
I am, but I also used to be pretty strong, and when I lost that, that's when I was like, well, now I got to do something about it.
I always saw you as having like a George Costanza kind of build, firm.
Oh, thanks, Audie. Thanks.
It's firm.
God damn it. All right, I couldn't think of a better way to end this. Mark, thank you very much for sticking with me. We're going to have to do a follow-up because I need the last piece of that power supply thing, so I'll also pick up a wireless controller, and we'll get Chris on here as well. Audie, you're always welcome to things that you won't show up to, so I'll invite you again next time, and hopefully you'll be 2 for 2.
Why don't we do an Atari Jaguar stream sometime?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for everybody who hung out in the chat. I always really appreciate that, and we will see you all soon.